Okay, I'm sorry. I got a 14-minute video up there. I don't know how that happened, but anyway. So, uh, 9 months later, and I don't know what happened to the last video. It's there on YouTube, but anyway, something funny happened. But anyway, uh, I called Ambassador Jacobson's office 9 months later from Quebec, from Montreal. I talked with his executive secretary. I said to her, "Do you want us to fly out of Canada from Montreal to get out of here from the organized crime in the police attacking us, and with the Hells Angels and their Nazi friends?" I asked the ambassador's secretary. I said, "Can we come to the American embassy in Ottawa?" Right? And I don't know how much she knew, but I told her about my wife going in there 9 months before and giving our evidence package over to two American people in their embassy. She said to me, she said, "Well, it's our policy if we get criminal information, we have to hand it over to the government in the country of origin in which our embassy resides." And then I said to her, "That was 9 months ago that my wife handed it to you." And she said, "Yeah, well, we would have given it back to Canada." And I said, "Oh." And then she said to me, "Well, did you hear from Canada about these crimes?" And I said, "No." And then you know what she said to me? She said, "You and your wife are welcome to come to the U.S. consulate. We have people on the main floor who can assist you with applications." And you know what she said to me? She said, "The police won't be involved." You know why? Because the executive secretary of Ambassador Jacobson knew at that point that corruption in the RCMP covered up our case. Okay, so that's the American end of it. Now, last year I contacted the FBI in Albany, New York. I called them, and they have a field office there. And I spoke with a very wonderful female agent, and she was very decent. And I was in tears on the phone. I mean, we just have nowhere to turn. I mean, the organized crime and the police trying to suppress and murder my wife and I, and threaten us with arrest every time we disclose our case. Like, that's sick, isn't it? So I called the FBI in Albany, New York, their field office. This is before Trump, before the American election where Trump was outvoted. And the female agent at the Albany, New York field office said to me, because I was in tears, we just had nowhere else to turn. And I knew they had no jurisdiction in Canada. So I asked them if I sent them our file, would they be willing to have a look? And she was very decent. She said yes. She said, "If you send us your file, send it to us by mail." She gave me their address, their phone number, and she said, "Mr. Fitzgerald, if you send us your file, we'll take a look." And I was so happy and relieved that they would look at it. I mean, I was just amazed. And so she gave me their address to send the package, the second package that I gave the Russians. And over time, I thought about it, and I realized that Trudeau and his filthy RCMP and mafia in the RCMP and Nazi pale white skinheads, they're suppressing all our evidence. So I became concerned that even if I throw it in the mail to the Bureau in New York, I realized that there was a good chance that Canada would steal it back, okay? Because they've been trying to cover it up, eh? So I contacted the U.S. consulate here on Sussex Drive on just before February 20th last year, okay? And I said to them, "Look, I have a package for the FBI in Albany, New York. If I send it to you by priority post and you receive it, will you please send it to them?" And this man that answers the phone there when you dial the number, he said, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." And then I said to them, "Well, look, I'll send it, but what if Canada steals it, right, in the mail?" And he said to me, "Oh, there's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we can do." And I said, "Okay." So the post office is right across the street from the American consulate on Sussex Drive in the bay downstairs. We have a box there. My wife has a mailbox there. So my wife wrapped up the package, and I wrote on the package with my signature. I had my signature. Okay. I said, "To President Donald J. Trump at the White House, to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Albany, New York." Okay. And I put some other name on it. I can't remember what it was. And this was so because I wanted President Trump to get a copy at the White House. Okay. So I sent it by priority post. I've got the receipt here. And about a week later, I called the American consulate here, and I asked them, this gentleman on the phone, if they received it. This was the guy that answers the phone there. He said, yeah, we received it. He said, "I'm the one that gets the mail." So I said to him, well, what did you do with it? He said, oh, I sent it to the RSO office. Okay? Now, when he told me that, what did he do? He gave it back to Canada. The RSO office is the Regional Security Office. That's Canadian. Now, after that, I called Washington, and I spoke with the FBI there. Okay, a lady on the phone there, a very nice lady. And she offered to let me speak to an agent. At the time, I just was not really, I could have, I guess. But I knew that the reason why I didn't is because I knew that everything I was saying there was being recorded anyway, and the agents would get it anyway. That's the main reason why. Like, they don't know what I know what they do. I mean, I know what they do, okay? When you call their center, it doesn't matter if you're talking to just a non-agent person of the FBI. When you call their telecenter, everything you're saying is being recorded. And I knew that. And I knew it would go to the FBI anyway. So I said, no thanks, I'll pass. So I told her. I told her what happened at the U.S. consulate with the new package. And you know what she said to me? She said to me, did you try to contact the FBI at the consulate? Here, the FBI has an office in the U.S. consulate. And I said to her, yeah. I said, for the past 10 years, I've called the consulate asking to speak with the bureau in the embassy. And every time I ask, they're telling me they're not in. There's nobody there. This has been consistent. Every time I have called the American embassy, and I've called maybe 7 or 8 times the American consulate here, and I've asked to be transferred to the bureau. And each time they've told me they're not in. Okay? So that's the American consulate end of matters. And by the way, over the years, when I called the State Department in Washington about our case, the operators were getting so upset because I was leaving messages, and they weren't, and John Kerry in particular wasn't doing a damn thing. So a couple of times they transferred me to John Kerry's office, and there was a female's voice said, "You've reached the office of the Secretary of State, a female. Please leave a message." This was not the comment line that the operator sent me to back then. And I left the most that I could, the most information I could in that 30-second message to the Secretary of State, John Kerry. They did nothing. The Secretary of States of the State Department, I'm sorry to say, have been helping Canada to silence my wife and I. This is what the U.S. government's been doing. All right? And this is in contradiction to the United States government's relationship with the State of Israel, because Canada has applied crystal clearly the Nuremberg laws against my wife and I. I cannot count all the tracking by the police here. When my wife went to Constitution Square last year here to the Dutch government, in 2018, excuse me, not last year, to give our package, oh, look at this, it stopped, to give our package to the ICC. When my wife went there, okay, she was followed there by the police to the Dutch government's embassy here. And when she went up there to give them the package, okay, that was it. They said they were going to send it to the ICC. we say that the ICC probably didn't get it. Okay, because if they did and they opened that package up, they were in for quite a surprise. So I've contacted the Jewish community here. I've contacted rabbis and so on. I've done all that, with no response. I'm disappointed with Rabbi Barsky of the Chabad here on Friel Street. We gave him our file. He stuck it in the trunk of his car. It was a Nazi case. And he claims he lost the file. This was a few years ago. And then he decided he didn't want anything to do with us and started ignoring us. This is a Jewish rabbi here who I consider to be a friend. He's my brother because he's Jewish. But still, he didn't handle it the right way. We also contacted, for 3 years, I called the Mikhail Hadass synagogue on Virginia Road here, leaving messages for Rabbi Balka, who now apparently has cancer. He's in New York. I feel bad for him. That's too bad. God bless him. But for 3 years, I reported to Rabbi Balka Trudeau's attacks against my wife and I, okay, and the Nuremberg policies. He didn't do anything. The last time I talked to Rabbi Balka here at the synagogue was about a year or so ago, and he answered the phone. He said he was on his way to the hospital to see a friend, but he had cancer, and I didn't know. Followed? Yes, absolutely. What's happening here is Trudeau is using organized crime. Organized crime from Quebec has invaded the police here in Ottawa and the RCMP. This is the problem. So he's going to the French Quarter, the corrupted part, to suppress my wife and I. This is what I allegate Trudeau's been doing. I called his office the other day, got no response. He's not responding to anything. He never did. Okay, his office never responded. What I have noted is when I've called Trudeau's office and I've condemned him for his activities, okay, what I have noted is we start getting followed even more and harassed and intimidated by the police when I call his office, okay? And there's no reason for it. None. Okay? None. There's no reason for any of it at all, okay? Like I said, they attacked our phones. I want to go back to that here, okay? My BlackBerry's dead. I went and hooked it up because this phone here wasn't working. It wouldn't even charge. The battery wouldn't work at all. There was nothing wrong with the battery of the charger, so I got my BlackBerry going. That cost us $50, and I put in a new SIM card. This was the other day. This was this was on the 11th of June, okay, when I did this. New SIM card for the BlackBerry and a $50 card, pay-as-you-go card on the BlackBerry from a guy down the street here on Montreal Road in Ottawa. We're staying at the Ottawa Inn, room 119, if the public wants to know. That's where we're staying at the moment. And so I started making phone calls on the BlackBerry because, like I said, this Android was dead, okay? And, I made my usual calls and so on. And then the other day, I get this thing on the screen while I'm on YouTube on the BlackBerry, this thing pops up, takes up the whole screen, telling me that I have to update my phone and I have to go to Wi-Fi to update it, or else I have to get a new SIM card. And I was forced to do this. I could not remove this thing from the screen of my BlackBerry. Okay, they wouldn't let me. It was either, and then they had the nerve to put up this notification at the top. You can make emergency calls only until you do what you're told. Essentially, is what happened, and so I couldn't use the BlackBerry, and I refused to do that because what they wanted to do is what they did to several of our other phones. See, this BlackBerry does not have the new system trusted credentials in it that you're all using. The security system trusted credentials in all your Androids, including your iPhones, are all corrupted. They all have police spyware and government spyware in them. And this means that every single phone in Canada, at least Canada, for the US, I can't speak. I don't know. But I'm telling you, every single Canadian in Canada, all of their phones, Androids, iPhones, the police can hack you anytime they want without you even knowing it. Forget about Google Play. I have downloaded every security system on Google Play. Norton 360, Bitdefender, Malwarebytes. I have run every security for Androids that I've, from Google Play. None of them work. None of them have stopped them from illegal tapping into our phones. Okay, and then, but anyways, so the other phone, I'll finish up with the BlackBerry. So they have this screen on my BlackBerry, essentially ordering me to go to hit the icons down below, to go to Wi-Fi, to download an updates into the phone, or else. The phone would not work at all. I could not get rid of their icon. I turned the phone off, restarted it, wouldn't get rid of it. I went on Google to find out how to reboot the Android 10, the BlackBerry. It told me how that didn't work. Their icon kept showing up on the full screen of the phone. I couldn't use the phone. So this is the corruption in the police's way here of telling me either you accept the update or you're not going to be able to use your BlackBerry. And I didn't accept that, okay? And that's what happened. So then I decided to take the battery out of the BlackBerry and put it back in, okay? So in order to do that, I had to take the screen off that I'm looking into right now. So I got my knife out and I started to gently pull the screen off it. And then these lines started appearing down the left side of the screen, okay? And when I got the screen off, it turns out the battery's built in to the circuit board, so I couldn't pull it. And after that, the BlackBerry's dead. And we've lost $50 to hook it up and a new SIM card as a result of the police hacking here. Well, that's what they did, okay? So I got that little argument against Canada. They've destroyed at least 10 of our phones. Okay. Now, what they wanted to do, I got a notification. It said that the phone had to be set up according to the region in which we reside. This was the notification. Okay. But it was forced, and nobody accepts third-party downloads from unknown persons. This is a rule. I mean, we are all always being warned not to accept third-party downloads. Okay. That they're dangerous. This was a third-party download. It didn't say where it came from. It didn't say it was from BlackBerry. It said nothing. It was just a little blue line across this top of my BlackBerry with the notifications below, and it had three little barrels on the front of it. Two had check marks in them. The third one didn't. Okay, so they would not let me use my BlackBerry unless I let them download. What did they want to download? Well, I'm going to tell you what they wanted to download. See, my BlackBerry did not have the trusted credentials that this phone has, and they've been using the trusted credentials to hack this phone here. Okay, that's how they've been getting into the phone, through the system trusted credentials. The ones you all have to watch out for are DigiCert. The Trudeau government and his RCMP are using DigiCert, okay, to hack this phone as well. Okay. That's what they're doing. And if they're not using it in the user account to attack our Android, they were using it in the guest account. All right? This has been consistent. They're listening in to all my phone calls to foreign states. They're listening in to my phone calls to the Israelis. They're listening in to my phone call. Every time my wife and I try to expose what Mr. Trudeau and his parliament and his Nazis and Italian mafia and bikers in the police have done to us, every time we try to go public with it, they threaten us with arrest. They send lone cops. When my wife and I are by ourselves with no witnesses, they like to send these Lone Star police officers to give us a real hard time. This has been consistent. Another thing they did at Wilbrod Street when we lived there, listen to this, let me tell you what happened. This is before we left there last summer, okay? This was about, I would say, June 2020 or something like that. Somewhere's in there, okay? My wife and I walk out of the building to go to the store, okay? The landlord and his flunky who smashed our plumbing, which was reported to the police, this Justin creep who lived downstairs, this guy's a low-life scumbag, okay? I mean low-life. Low-life. And they knew, the police knew, that this landlord and his little flunky at 330 Wilbrod Street here in Ottawa were harassing my wife and I and playing games, okay? The police used them. You see, Mr. Li Yuk Chung, a Chinese immigrant from mainland China, from maybe Hong Kong or something, 80 years old or something like that, he was having problems with the city, the city of Ottawa. He didn't have any, he did not have any permits to do construction on his buildings, okay? And they were coming down hard on him with it. They were sending city bylaws guys down, fining him. And he's 80 years old. I mean, he's an old guy, right? And they were harassing him. And they kept leaning on his buildings, putting liens against his buildings. Then he was forced to sell his buildings. Then they gave him orders none of the tenants were allowed to live there. And then the police started showing up. The police were showing up all the time. And what was happening here was the city of Ottawa, under corrupt Mayor Watson, okay, was using their control and the fact that Li Yuk Chung couldn't get a lawyer anywhere to fight over his buildings for him. They were using that. He had no legal place to turn. So they were using that to come to the buildings, excuses against the construction problems in his building. And so the city started bringing the police to his building. And they were using their problem with him as an excuse to bang on my door and harass my wife and I. This is what was going on. The same thing here in the hotel here, Hotel Ottawa Inn. It's the same thing. This is a police magnet, this building. They have criminals in here. As a matter of fact, a guy outside the other day assaulted some guy. They charged him for it, kicked him in the teeth or something and hit him. My wife and I don't need that. This is just garbage, okay? This place is a police magnet, okay? And we were put in here for one reason, for attacks by organized criminals in the police. This is why we were brought here. This is the only reason. I have never seen the hacking of our phones like I have here. At Wilbrod Street, you know what else they were doing? Here we are. We lived in the basement. And I'm making phone calls to the State Department, the Russians, and so on. I'm making all these phone calls. And wait till you hear this. Okay, I'm making all these phone calls to member states of the international community here, embarrassing Trudeau, okay, and his filthy government, all right? And here in our building at Wilbrod in the basement, all of a sudden, my phone won't work. One weekend, this phone wouldn't work at all. I couldn't get a signal. And the internet wouldn't work neither. I had to go outside the building 2 blocks down and reset the internet settings on this Android so I can make phone calls and get the internet. Every time I left the building to do that, it was no problem. The minute I go back into the building into our unit, the internet wouldn't work. I had no signal at all. Okay. Then here's another thing that was happening. When I'd be talking on my phone, or when I hit 1 for our messages, pressing 1 on the keypad to go to our voicemail, okay, I could hear my pressing the button in the boiler room, because the boiler room was right next to our unit in this man's basement of his building, okay? So I could hear my talking into the phone here in the boiler room. This is what they were doing. Now, I want to move on now about the Russians for the moment. Moscow has our file. Now, what's happened here is the Russian government has sort of driven a wedge into our case because of what's happened with Israel. Okay, because, as I said, the Ayatollah Porker in Iran, who's about as religious as my baby finger, you know, his Hezbollah and Hamas and the filthy Palestinian Nazis attacking synagogues in Israel and killing the man in Lod, beating him with sticks and bricks. Okay, that is unacceptable. Okay, and Iran is a ally of the Russians and the Chinese governments. But the Shah embarrassed China and Russia, and he totally contradicted President Vladimir Putin as well as the President of China's statements about fascism and Nazism. Okay, so this kind of drove a wedge into my ongoing relationship with the Russian Federation. But okay, the fact of the matter is, no matter what they all say, okay, the fact of the matter is the Russian Federation and the Jewish people share the same blood from Auschwitz and Birkenau, okay? And both governments cannot stand Nazis. So I have to work with both of them, okay? Even though I condemn the Russians, okay? And I've asked them many times at their embassy already. I went to their embassy and I pressed the buzzer, and I've indicated to their senior staff to tell Moscow to stop what they're doing to Israel. Okay, to side with Israel. It's not the Jewish people's fault. They have no right to allow Iran to attack Israel like that. Okay, so I've asked President Putin through them to please don't do that anymore, and he needs to side with Israel against the anti-Semitic attacks, because there's a large Nazi movement and security involved in all of this. Okay, if you look around, these pale white talls are everywhere. They followed my wife and I all over the place. They're in every police division in Canada. This is Trudeau doing this, okay? And they're applying the Nuremberg laws covertly through people's communications devices. Okay, that's what they did to us. The phones, well, like I said I was going to do something on that. The fact of the matter is every single Canadian citizen, you all need to listen to me, okay? The police can hack all of your phones through the security credentials. There is nothing you can do about it. And they're using system applications. If you go into your Androids in Canada, the only way you can get rid of system apps, you have user apps and system apps, right? In your Androids and iPhones. The user apps are the ones you download, your games, your movies. You can download, like for example, Google Play. Those are user apps, okay? Now, when you download a security program from Google Play to protect your phone, okay, what's going on here is it protects us user downloads from places like Google Play. Okay, that protects it'll scan all of your user downloads. It will not scan the system credentials, all of the Google Play securities, Norton, all of them. Forget it. And it will not scan your system applications. The only way that you can protect yourself from neo-Nazis, Italian mafia, and bikers in Canada's entire police force from being able to hack you without your knowledge and without your permission to do so illegally in violation of Canada's Charter of Civil Rights. The only way that you can stop them, okay, is by rooting your Android or your iPhone. It is the only way. Now, I called Apple in California already. I called their headquarters, okay, and I spoke with the secretary there, I guess, who answers the phone there, okay, and I told her, okay, that all of Apple's iPhones are all violated in Canada. I can't speak for the United States. I can't, because I don't know. I know of a few reports, some suspicious activity of hacking, but it seems to me in the United States that law enforcement in the U.S., like the FBI, for example, and that they seem to respect the privacy of iPhone users, no matter what they say. The American people get away with more posts on YouTube of things that I can't believe that they're allowed to even post on YouTube, because it's their constitutional right. Even if it's against the government or they don't like a president or whatever, it seems to me that the American people, they have far more rights than they do. If you post a video on YouTube against the Trudeau government, they'll send the mafia and the police to hound you. They'll cut off your phone like they've done us. They will covertly penalize and punish you like they've done us. They've been doing this to us all along. Regarding this phone here, that my wife's Android, listen, this phone wasn't charging. It wouldn't accept the charge at all, period. Matter of fact, the other night we left it on all night long. It was on all night, okay? And and there's nothing wrong with the battery or the charger, okay? We left it on all night charging. In the morning, it was at 50%, okay? So they're also able to cut off the connection between the internal charging to your battery. They're able to cut that off once they hack your phones. So in Canada, I'm warning all of you, okay, all of you Canadians in Canada, and I'm warning the world and the governments, okay, that Trudeau and his national security can hack every single user's phone in Canada, of iPhones, Blackberries, they've proven this to me, and Androids, without your knowledge, without your permission. If you start making phone calls and the call's echoing when you're speaking into the phone, and they do all of this covert, okay, because they don't want to leave evidence. This is the whole point. And it is security doing it. President Vladimir Putin, after the summit with Joe Biden, okay, who's answering questions from the international community, from reporters, and somewhere in the mix, he had mentioned, I guess, to Biden about the Canadian government cyber attacks. He had mentioned this. I heard him say this on YouTube. Now, I agree with the president of Russia on that. That's very true. But what he was referring to is the evidence we gave his consulate of the hacking of our phones. This is what he's referring to. I guess when I reported it to the Russian government, Trudeau's national security cyber attacks against my wife and I, and the symptoms of those attacks, and the effects on our phones, and what had happened to our phones as a result of illegal mafia RCMP and Nazi RCMP attacks against our Androids. When I described what was happening with the phones as a result of those attacks, I believe what happened here was the Russians have been getting attacked. They've been getting cyber attacks as well, okay? And I guess the cyber attacks and the type of the attacks and the effects the attacks would have on their diplomats' phones, I'm talking about the embassy here, I guess matched up. What they were doing to us matched up with what they were receiving to some extent, although they're better at blocking it. They have they have a great security system for their diplomatic people, I believe. And that's what Putin was referring to. When he said Canada cyber attacks, believe me, he was referring to our case because I gave it to them, to his embassy. I'm talking with their embassy, okay? The Russian government should not, think that I hate them or I don't like what they're doing to Israel, and that's what drives a wedge between us. But on the issue of Nazism, we are together, okay, along with Israel. And I'm going to play that to the fullest, okay? I do not agree with what the Russians are allowing to happen in Israel. Okay, it's the Jewish people being attacked in Israel. It's my people. you know, it is the Shah of Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and the Palestinians attacking my people. And they're attacking our synagogues. Okay? And Putin should say no way to that. No, no, no. Iran, no. And he should stop supporting the Shah. And I am going to keep diplomatically putting pressure on my Russian friends to do just that. To cut ties. That Shah needs to be put in a box and sent to Israel for a trial, just like they did with Eichmann, okay, in the 60s. Israel kidnapped him from Argentina, okay? They need to do the same with this guy. And that new president of Iran, who they accuse of genocide and war crimes, absolutely. He needs to go with them in the box, okay? That's my position. I'm not changing that. Listen to me, I like and respect the Russian people, and I like their president. I like President Vladimir Putin, I do. And that's not going to change. But I will say the same thing on this video that I said on the telephone. If I'm in Israel, and I'm in the IDF to protect the Jewish people, and I have to shoot a Russian soldier between the eyeballs to protect him from attacking the Jewish people, I'll do so. And I'm not kidding. And I would, and of course, the Russians know not to test me on that. They know I really mean it, and I do mean it. I'll shoot a Hezbollah cockroach right in the head, without hesitation. Matter of fact, you know, believe it or not, I love my people so much. I love the Jewish people, my people, from Jacob's womb so much. I will tell you right now, I actually told the Israeli ambassador to the UN. I'm sure he was kind of proud that I said what I said, but probably also realizing it's a problem, you know. I know he was proud. I have no doubt about that, okay? But I told him in a message to the Israeli ambassador at the UN in their office in New York. I also believe I indicated this to Mr. Jacob Roth, okay? I told him, I said, look, Mr. Ambassador, you know, Aaron Breitbart told us when I called Simon Wiesenthal Center last year, he said they believed us and what the police here were doing to us. Essentially, he said, we believe you. Those were his exact words. And he said, you and your wife need to get the hell out of Ottawa and go to Israel. That's what Aaron Breitbart said of Simon Wiesenthal Center. I quote him saying that to me. I was so proud that he said that. You know, I was very taken back. I thought that Rabbi Marvin Heyer, if you're out there, Rabbi Heyer, I love you. Rabbi, you and your colleagues, Samuels and Abraham Cooper. But listen to me, Rabbi Heyer. If you see this video, you need to do something right now about Canada. These police are not stopping. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Okay? I told the Israeli mission in New York, and I meant it. The problem with my wife and I coming to Israel is this. It's really simple. If we were to come to Israel and they let us in, which I think they would, you know, the problem here is for me is if I see an Israeli child being killed by a Palestinian, or I see them throwing rocks at our people, or if I see them shooting at Jewish women and children, I'll pull out a gun and kill them right there in the spot, if I have one, or a crossbow or something. I will kill them. See, this is the problem with me. I'll go hyper automatic right away into automatic mode. And I told them that. Like I told the Israeli mission that in New York. Okay? I told them they needed to send tanks to the Temple Mount. Okay? And I told them to send bulldozers and get the bulldozers and take down that mosque and get rid of it. That temple belongs to our people. Okay? The Temple Mount belongs to us, not to the Muslims. They have no right to be there. Oh, they turn and pray all the time on our Temple Mount, okay? While they bomb the Jewish people, you know, down below, right? The Temple Mount is owned by the Jewish people. It's not by them. And I told them, the Israeli government, I said, look, if I was Prime Minister of Israel, I would send D12 bulldozers up to the Temple Mount, and I'd rip that mosque to pieces and send it out by wheelbarrow, and it would never be there again. I don't care what the Muslims think. Looking at the bugs, the locusts that attacked Mecca a year ago, I look at the millions of locusts that went to Mecca, all dying on the ground. They had to sweep them up. They were all dead, eh? Now, there you go. Now you see how much Yahweh loves the Muslims, eh? Sends locusts there and drops them on the ground dead in Mecca, so they have to clean them all up. Does that tell you something? Reminds me of the story of Ramses. Okay, so the attacks against us here are covert, all right? And the police are doing this. I had a vision last night, which I'm going to tell you all about. Two biker cops with French accents trapped my wife and I out on the street. They were harassing my wife, okay? And I was there, and I started asking one of them, "Why are you harassing my wife like this? She didn't do anything wrong." And he got mad at me and said, "Shut your mouth." And I said, "Officer, why? Go over to my police car and get in there," he said to me, this with a French accent. And in the vision, God's angel described this cop to me, this policeman, as a biker. Okay? I had this last night. I have not had a vision of police harassments for a year now. The first one I had was last night. Why? Because I called the Israeli consulate in New York last night, and I told them all about Mr. Trudeau and the lies and the cover-up. Mr. Trudeau, we sent a letter. We sent letters to Donald Trump. We sent a letter to Donald Trump. My wife wrote it to the White House, sent it by priority post. She was followed to the post office with the letter to President Donald J. Trump when he was president. I got to tell you about this. And the letter reached Washington, okay, by priority post. My wife was followed there. I called the post office in Washington. This was the morning that Trump, former President Donald J. Trump, was leaving for his first summit in Europe. He was already on his way to Andrews when the White House sent someone to pick up the letter. And I told the State Department, I called them before I sent it, and I called the White House, and I told them this letter was coming and that the president had to see it. The comment line operator at the White House told me she was sending the message up to the administration. So they knew it was coming. Now listen to this. That day, Trump was on his way to Andrews to board his jumbo jet to go to Europe. Okay, that's the day they came and picked up the letter. Do you understand? Trump was already on his way. You know who got it? Vice President Pence got the letter. Okay? And then the following weekend, after they received the letter, I found out through the media Pence was having a conversation with the Prime Minister of Canada at the White House over the weekend. I'm pretty sure it was about the letter. Now, we never heard from the White House on that one. Now I'm going to tell you something else that happened. Okay? I called the White House during the Trump administration. I called the comment line, and they told me to write a letter to the president. They said, write a letter to President Trump, and I'd already sent a letter to him already. Okay, my wife sent it, as I've already explained. Or they said I could go on the White House website and email the president, okay, President Trump, all right? So I decided to email him. So I went down to a library here on Rideau Street and Frio Street, roughly. There's a small library. They have computer terminals for the public that you can use for free, and there's a security camera on the ceiling. You know, a police security camera, right? So I get on the terminal, and I get an hour. I have 60 minutes on the terminal, and I pull up the White House website, okay? And I went to the section where you can write an email to President Donald J. Trump, all right? You know, the little form they have there. They used to, when Obama was in, the limit was 2,500 characters or something, or 2,000. But it was limitless with Trump. It was limitless with President Trump. So I wrote up an email to him on the White House form on the Ottawa Library computer down there. And I sent that one to the White House, okay, because there is a limit to what you can send the president. I'm going to tell you some more stuff. You're in for a big surprise. So then I did it again. I needed to send more. I wasn't finished what I was going to say. It was quite a pile of information, so I needed to send 2 or 3, 4 different emails, okay? So then I wrote up the second one, and I sent it, okay? And when I started getting down to the nitty-gritty, okay, about the Nazi attacks by Canada, and I started writing the third one containing this particular information. Do you know what they did? Huh? The police here? They actually cut my connection off to the White House. The screen was gone. It just gone. Okay? And all I was left with was Bibliotech Ottawa logo on the screen. They cut me off in my third email to the White House. Also, Justin Trudeau. In 2014, regarding our boat Jacob's Ladder, the one that was attacked in the marina in Quebec, there was 2 boats here. There was Jacob's Ladder in 2011, and there was Jacob's Goshen in 2014, October 2014. There was 2 boats. The government of Canada used a freak named Pierre Lebrun of Transport Canada. They came to our boat Jacob's Ladder on November 13th, 2012. Okay, and my wife was on the boat by herself. The boat bow was nosed up to a beach, and I was planning on getting it taken out of the water by a marina in the area, okay? I just had to get it down there. I was at the store, and I come back, there's all kinds of police around the boat, and then these Quebec St. Jean-sur-Richelieu police approached me as I'm walking, because I had to walk through a golf course to get to our boat, which was on the beach, just the bow. It's just a small portion of the bow. The boat was anchored off the stern, okay? So I come walking there, there's all these police. So this female police officer comes up, she says, Mr. Fitzgerald, it's very dangerous here. You're in a lot of danger here. You need to get your stuff off the boat, pack and get off the boat, right? They're taking it. And I said, oh my gosh, really? So I get on the boat, I walk through the water, this was November, and go to the stern of my boat and crawl up. There's a police rubber boat at the back of my boat with LeBrun in it from Transport Canada. His buddies, Italian. They were Italian, 2 Italian guys, one at the bow. So I get on the boat, and I'm looking at the police boat sitting on my stern. I can see them because my stern's quite high on my, it was a Trojan 31 Express cruiser. So I look down, and here is this Italian policeman on the front of the rubber boat. He's got his hand on his weapon, So I looked and I said, officer, why do you have your hand on your weapon? He wouldn't say anything. And he looked at me with great hatred like he wanted to shoot and ask questions later, okay? So I go inside the trunk cabin, and my wife is there packing, and she's scared and nervous. She says to me, Dan, do you know what they did before you came? I said, what? She said, well, when they came up to the back of the boat, in the rubber boat, I went out on the deck, and I looked at them and asked them what they wanted. And a police officer in the back of the boat, rubber boat pulled out his gun and waved it up and down at me and told me to get off the boat. That's what happened. Okay, so I'm letting you all know what happened to the first boat. Then they put our boat in a boatyard, the government, called, it was in St. Jean-sur-Richelieu. Okay, this boatyard. They hired this guy to take our boat off the beach. We weren't allowed to see it taken. A month later, we went to the boatyard, okay, to check our boat out that had been taken. We went in there with a camera. We had a camera. Here, he smashed off my exhaust on the transom. He bent my port rudder, okay, and smashed my trim tab. I have photos. And the boat was still on the trailer that he took it out of the water with, that the government hired him to do. We went to his office, and when we left, I said to the guy, what happened to our boat? Did you smash the trim tab and the starboard side exhaust coming out of the transom? He said, yeah, I did. He said, and if you get mad at me, I'm going to call the police. That's what this lunatic said. And the name of the company is Poly and Fiber in St. Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec. Can you believe that? Can you people on YouTube fathom this? They applied the Commercial Shipping Act. We sent all our evidence to Transport Canada here in Ottawa, okay, regarding our boat. I was told by the Coast Guard, the office of Captain Ned Carney in 212, when they were threatening our boat, illegally applying the Commercial Shipping Act, the office of Captain Ned Carney, I spoke to a captain here in Ottawa in 212 on the telephone from Quebec. He told me, he said, Mr. Fitzgerald, what the hell are you doing in Quebec? It's all organized crime there. That's the first thing he said to me. I was so happy he said that. Obviously, he knew. And then he said to me regarding our boat and Transport Canada's illegal freighter action, I guess the government of Canada confused our 30-foot Trojan with a freighter. He said to me, Mr. Fitzgerald, and this is a Coast Guard officer, a man on the waves for 40 years, okay? He said, look, he said, you can work on your boat anywhere on that river and they can do nothing about it.